What's up, y'all? Spring has just started and it is starting to get really hot here in Texas. We're starting to see temperatures rise up into the 90s and it's probably gonna just continue to go up from here. So I figured now would be the best time to do a video on how I like to dress for the hot weather, my approach to buying new garments for this specific time of year, and what you might want to look for whenever you're buying garments for this upcoming season. And at the end of the video, I'm gonna show you guys just some examples of things that I like to style and how I like to style them for this time of year. Thanks for clicking on this video. If you like this content and you wanna see more, please subscribe to my channel, Hallmark Gear Reviews. If you have some ideas for future videos I could do regarding clothing, fashion, and just gear in general, please let me know in the comments below. Let's get in the video. All right, so whenever I'm looking at potentially buying something new for the summer, for the hot weather, there's quite a few things that I consider when going into that purchase. And so the first one is kind of obvious, but it's the fabric. And there's actually three aspects of the fabric that I think are important to consider. First, that I think is probably the most important and what will kind of give you the best idea of what the fabric's intention is the fabric weight. Fabrics can come in a variety of weights, starting at less than 1 ounce all the way up to 20 ounces, just depending on what the garment is. I know Wonder Looper, I think, has one out there that's 23 ounces. It's like 100% cotton sweater, which is ridiculous. But we're not talking about those types of garments. We're just talking about garments meant for the summer. And in saying that, when it comes to your shirts, anything you're wearing above the waist, I tend to like to look for garments that are no more than 7 ounces. A lot of denim shirts start at 7 to 7.5 ounces. And I, on occasion, will wear a denim shirt in the summer, but you have to kind of be smart with how you wear it. Anything less than that should be good. And typically if it's less than 7 ounces, then it's intended to be worn in warmer weather. And so moving on beyond just the weight of the fabric, you want to consider what the fabric is made of. Now, when it comes to garments for hot weather, cotton and linen kind of reign supreme. Cotton is just a great material for clothing overall because it can be woven in a bunch of different unique ways. It can be made in different weights depending on the use of the garment. So then what I would say is probably the most popular natural material for summer garments is definitely linen. Now, I know linen is kind of preferential. A lot of people don't like linen because it wrinkles pretty easily, and they may not like the inherently drapey nature of linen. But besides all of that, linen is just an incredible fabric. It's been around for centuries. And what makes linen so great for the summer is that, kind of similar to polyester, linen is great at drying quickly, but the actual yarns of linen are really strong, actually 2 to 3 times stronger than cotton. So people making garments can make the garments incredibly lightweight when using linen, and that's what makes it such a great fabric for the summer. But if for whatever reason you just don't love 100% linen, there's plenty of options out there that blend cotton and linen together. And in my opinion, that's kind of the best of both worlds because you get that nice lightweight nature, quick drying nature of linen, but the cotton helps give the linen a bit of structure and it doesn't wrinkle quite as easily. So then I would say probably the third most popular material used for summer garments is rayon. Now, rayon is kind of confusing because there's a lot of different subcategories of rayon. I'll go ahead and just list off some of the more common ones. Tencel, lyocell, viscose, modal, and cupro are all forms of rayon. Sometimes it does feel a little bit like polyester. There's some really nice rayons out there that don't feel that way. This shirt is kind of an example of that. This is rayon and it has kind of a silky nature to it, whereas I have felt some rayons that are kind of plasticky feeling. So, do your research. Hopefully if you have the opportunity, feel the material in person. But what rayon basically is it is technically a natural material, but the way we get it is through synthetic means. So typically we get these rayons from plant waste. So either wood pulp or even in cotton production, we get cupro from the cotton waste. Each one of these has their own kind of characteristics. And for this video specifically, I'm not gonna go into each one. But basically I think of the group, two that usually stand out for me are Cupro and Tencel. Wyeth has their Tencel gabardine westerns that I've always kind of been interested in, and they look like they'd be really nice and breezy. And then I actually recently just checked out this piece from Still by Hand that is a cotton Cupro blend, and it's probably one of the lightest shirts I've ever tried on. It's gonna take a lot in me not to get that for this summer. A couple of other materials that you might see, they're not as popular as the three I mentioned before, but I've seen some bamboo garments. I've heard really good things about bamboo fiber. There's also tropical wool. I know some people hear wool and they just think, no, that's just a cold weather material, but tropical wool is actually great for the summer. Wool just in general is very breathable and pretty durable. So tropical wool, it's typically used in suiting. I feel like I'm seeing it more now in more casual clothing. And then another material that I'm starting to see more and more of is hemp. There's a brand out there called Young Maven, I think is how you pronounce it, and they're one of the first brands that I knew of that was experimenting with hemp garments. I know Patagonia has a couple of hemp garments, and it's supposedly supposed to be stronger than cotton, but with all the benefits of cotton too. So might be something worth looking at if you're looking at updating your summer wardrobe. Now, the last thing to consider is the weave. Typically, a lot of these things will go hand in hand. So if you have a lightweight cotton fabric, it's typically going to be woven in a way that's better for warmer weather. But a couple of weaves to look out for. Seersucker is really popular this time of year. What it basically is, I've seen it made with 100% cotton. I've seen it made with like a cotton polyester blend. But what it basically is a weave where you have these little ridges throughout the whole fabric. And what this basically does is it helps keep the fabric off your body. And we'll get into why that's important in the summer a little bit later in this video. But moving on to some of the other things to look out for. A plain weave is going to be great. So if you saw my previous video, I talked about chambray. That's a plain weave. And one great thing about like a cotton plain weave like chambray is it's going to give you that same kind of durability of like a denim. And if I'm really wanting to wear like a denim shirt in the summer, then I'll probably just reach for my chambray. So then moving on, a couple of other kind of weaves to look for. Basket weave, that's typically what Oxford cloth is made from. Now, Oxfords can get heavy. If you look at some of the old like Polo Ralph Lauren Oxfords, those can tend to get heavy. I know the American Trench, theirs is supposedly pretty heavy. So another kind of weave that you want to look for is like a open weave or open knit. If something is like an open knit or an open weave, it might also be sheer. It might also be a little bit see-through. But the reason open knit is so great for the summer, it basically just allows more air to escape. So another fabric that I really love for the summer is gauze. I have a Western from Richter Goods that's made with gauze, and it's incredibly lightweight. The fabric is incredible, and especially in the summer, it just lets a lot of air move through it, and it's just a really nice fabric to have. And then the two last ones I have on here are PK. If you've ever had like a traditional like polo from Polo Ralph Lauren, it's probably a PK fabric. On kind of close inspection, a PK fabric almost looks like a waffle style fabric, which I think some people kind of associate with like the waffle knit thermals, but it's kind of doing the opposite of that because each one of those little kind of pockets are actually open and allowing air to kind of escape through. That's why polos are kind of a great option for the summer because of that PK fabric. And then finally, if you've ever owned like a 100% cotton t-shirt, which I'm sure most if not all of you have, then it's likely made from a jersey fabric. This typically is a go-to fabric for t-shirts because it has some mechanical stretch, which basically means it can stretch without needing a elastic blended into the fabric. All right, so then let's get into just what to wear. The main idea that I like to kind of focus on is just making sure that I'm allowing air to escape from my body. Our bodies naturally want to cool us down whenever it's hot. That's why we sweat. But it's not the sweat by itself that cools us down, it's the sweat evaporating and pulling the heat away from our bodies. So if we're wearing garments that don't allow that process to happen, or at least don't allow it to happen, easier, then you're gonna end up uncomfortable. So the first suggestion that I would say to allow your body to do that is to stay away from garments that are really snug fitting. Tension in your garments doesn't really look good anyway. In your casual wear, you typically want your clothes to be off your body anyway. You don't want them to be super crazy snug, because basically the closer a garment is to your body, the harder it is for your body to get rid of that air that's trapped between you and your garment. So one easy example of how to do this is switching from pants to shorts. Now, just because it's hot doesn't mean you should avoid pants completely. Obviously, it kind of depends on the situation. If it's up in the triple digits, I think that's a perfect opportunity to wear shorts. But I've even worn like lightweight denim on the hotter days and been pretty comfortable. So then another way that you can kind of approach those extremely hot days is to consider tank tops. Now, if you're like me, you might be against it because you have this kind of singular idea of what a tank top is. And I've tried the whole kind of traditional ribbed tank top under like a button up. But I think this year what I'd like to try is kind of variations on what I've considered tank tops in the past. So there's a couple of options out there. I really love this one from Lady White Co. I like it because I feel like under like a button up shirt, it would just read as like a standard t-shirt, mostly because of the higher neckline. And I also might even consider just trying to rock this by itself. I have pretty broad shoulders, so I think I can kind of pull off the muscle tee look. So might give it a shot. Another example of kind of an alternative approach to a tank top is like this one from Indian Ash. It sits kind of off the body and looks really loose and kind of drapey, and almost reads more as like a running gilet versus like a traditional kind of ribbed undershirt style tank top. So something to consider too whenever you're trying to figure out what to wear is whenever you have a button up, even if it's a long sleeve button up, that whole placket in the front has basically huge gaps in between each button, which each are opportunities for that hot air to escape from your torso. And that's gonna give you way more breathability than a t-shirt, because a t-shirt is just gonna be one piece of fabric wrapped around your torso. You also don't have to button them up all the way. One way you can kind of style it creatively is to let a few buttons down, cuff up the sleeves, really experiment with how the shirt is fitting you, especially when it comes to the heat, because you might find that a favorite button up of yours may also be your favorite summer shirt, depending on how you style it. I hope this video helped y'all kind of figure out what you're going to do going into the hotter months. If you have any questions, drop a comment and I'll try and answer them as soon as possible. And thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.